nation, I believe. If not, it's very close. We are many trillions of dollars in debt to China. So when we talk about trade imbalances with China or about currency manipulation, all of which are fair questions, we deal with them from a position of relative weakness unless we have a strong economy. So to me, we have to fundamentally make sure that we are keeping our house in order as a world power by making sure we have the strongest economy in the world, and we can do that. In terms of Iran per se, the theocracy in Iran, and I had the privilege of speaking in a group of Democrats and Republicans from the House visit Israel on a regular basis. I went in August of 2011, and we spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and I agree with him when he said we are dealing with madness. The theocracy in Iran does not think the way you do, respectfully submitted. They are not humanitarian. They are not humane. They do not appreciate the tolerance or the diversity that we accept, rightly so, as a way of life in the United States. And I think we have to recognize that and be ready to act with force if needed. But I do very strongly prefer that we use every economic means at our disposal. We haven't used every one of them yet, but it's a very important situation. And the more we can devote to our intelligence resources, the better, because that's the best way to forestall the need to use force or to reduce the amount of force. And let's not forget one more piece, which is energy policy. The more we can rely on our own domestic production or on friendly sources like Canada. I'm a supporter of the Keystone Pipeline. I think probably more Americans support it than don't. It has broad support in the House. The President has opposed it. I hope he will change his view about that. Keystone Pipeline, we have many offshore fields that have already been approved that we should be developing. The House has been trying to act to get the pipeline done, to get that offshore production capacity going. I think those are important initiatives that we should pursue as rapidly as possible. We have not been doing that, but it would provide power to our economy, it would provide relief to our consumers, another important spur for growth, and it would reduce our vulnerability to nations that clearly mean harm to us and to many of our friends. Any other thoughts?
One of the services that we offer to our members is healthcare, and if you could just speak a little bit about what is coming down the pike as far as what, as employers, we can expect to have to comply with the regulations.
Right.
Because I know in speaking with some of our healthcare brokers, they're not even sure how to propose things to us anymore. So I just need to know, as far as the timeline of what can be expected.
Right, and Lynn, it's a little bit hard to predict. Well, you know, we don't know if we have House and Senate and White House aligned as of November. I think there will still be a Republican majority in the House as of November. I don't think that's a radical prediction. I do think and hope that I'll be worthy of re-election myself. But irrespective of that, there'll be a Republican majority in the House. If there's a corresponding majority in the Senate, and if Governor Romney is elected president, there will be a repeal of the Affordable Care Act. I believe, or of most of the provisions, if the Senate has not 60 members who are Republicans or against the ACA. And if so, then you'll see some fairly rapid alternative development. But in the meantime, you know, you're going to have to report to the IRS. If you have health plans for your employees, you're going to have to report those to the IRS because the tax provisions are going to be changing on how those employee plans, on how your benefits are taxed, obviously. So that's one of the things. The employer mandate, the employer penalties, I think go into effect I'm pretty sure it's 2014. I don't think it's 2013. But I can find out for sure, because HHS itself, you know, the Affordable Care Act went to thousands of pages, a couple thousand pages, but then there are thousands of pages of regulations that follow that. New York State also plays a role in your planning, an important role, because of course you have to deal with the state insurance department. There are more than 50 mandates that your plans have to honor. And I believe Governor Cuomo is going to be starting an exchange. Now, when that exchange, I don't think it's going to be active as of January 2013, but probably he's planning it as of January 2014. So those are just some of the things you're going to have to think about. IRS reporting, increase in the cost of your insurance premiums almost assuredly for your plans, because insurers are anticipating. I think that they're going to have a decreasing pool of purchasers for their private plans. I think more and more employees are going to go into public exchanges, and more employers are probably going to pay the mandate. And the specific amount of the mandate or penalty is not set yet, as far as I know. But it'll run to at least a couple thousand per employee. If you ask me what would I do differently, I've always said I would repeal. I voted twice to repeal the Affordable Care Act and replace it. The goals are the right goals, absolutely the right goals. Every American should have access to good medical care and should be able to afford health insurance. I completely agree. My problem with that law is that it is a very costly way to try to achieve those goals for a number of reasons, which I'm happy to discuss. But if someone said, Nan, fine, go ahead, blank sheet of paper, what would you do to replace it? I would do these 4 things, just to give you that little perspective. I would take a page out of the book from the state of Indiana, where I happened to grow up, actually, but Governor Mitch Daniels, his name will be familiar, and a Democratic legislature, Democrats and Republicans together, created a plan called Healthy Indiana, health savings accounts for their Medicaid recipients that the state helped them to put together, pre-tax dollars, for their Medicaid recipients for state employees. And people with a health savings account will purchase routine care with their own dollars, which leads them immediately to work with their doctors and with their providers to figure out what makes sense. I can tell you as a doctor, that's a really great process. Gee, doc, do you think I need an antibiotic for that? And you know, if docs are, you know, didn't think about that to begin with, I always did, but you know, they didn't, they may say, well, you know, I think we can wait a couple days, it's probably just a virus. Things like that, you would be amazed how that saves on cost. Do I really need another chest x-ray? I just had one 3 days ago. Things like that. Streamlining care, making it more efficient, but keeping the doctor and patient at the heart of it instead of a federal bureaucracy, which is what we will have under the terms of the ACA. So if people have health savings accounts, they'll purchase catastrophic insurance, real insurance for the big expenses. That's what insurance should cover. So if you open up the insurance marketplace so that people can buy insurance products from states other than their own, New York puts a lot of barriers up that make insurance very costly. Buying the state of New York doesn't have to be that way. So if we had health savings accounts as the way that most Americans paid for their health insurance, if we had the insurance marketplace open so that people could buy a broad variety of products, and most of them would buy catastrophic policies, which are much less costly. If we had real liability reform, that is a uniquely American problem, unique to this country. So when we think about the Affordable Care Act, it is very much like the National Health Service in Britain, not identical, but very similar. But in Britain, there is not the same kind of liability culture that there is in the United States, and defensive medicine is very costly. So we have to have real liability reform. And finally, we can definitely help the Americans who have trouble finding insurance because of pre-existing conditions, or because they are in dire straits in any number of ways. We can help them at a much lower cost than the cost of this law, and there are very good models for how to do that, state by state with high-risk pools. So those are the tenets that I would follow, and I would not have a massive program run out of Washington. It's not efficient, it's not effective, and another fundamental problem with the ACA is that it does shift ultimately shifts nearly $1 trillion at $716 billion.